What do the over-unders look like for the Minnesota Wild this season? We will find out on today's episode of Locked On Wild.
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Another episode of Locked On Wild coming at you, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Wild your first listen of the day. And just a reminder, Locked On Wild is available and free on every podcast platform that you currently use. So make sure to give us a try if you have not listened before, as we get closer and closer to the start of Wild season. On today's episode of Locked On Wild, friend of the show, Wyatt Garin, joins to take a look at Wild overs and unders for team performance as well as individual performances as well. We go through all of them and see if we agree or if we think players will do better or worse than their projections. Welcome into today's episode of Locked On Wild, a Thursday edition of the show. A Wednesday edition of the show. There we go. I don't even know what day it is, but, we'll make it work. Seth Sopal, host of Locked On Wild with you, veteran of over 10 years of Minnesota sports coverage, including the last 2 seasons covering exclusively your favorite team in the state of hockey, the Minnesota Wild. Happy to have you along. It is a Wednesday, and we're joined by friend of the show, Wyatt Garan. Wyatt, good to talk to you, man. How are things going?
Oh, they're going, man. I feel like this appearance has been a long time coming, honestly. So
yeah, it's good to have you. It's good to have you on these airwaves. We have collaborated in the past, certainly, and so
absolutely
glad to have you on, and should be an exciting conversation here for today's episode.
Yeah, I'm ready to get my brain picked.
So let's hop in. What we're doing today, as mentioned, is we're going over some of the over-under totals for the Wild. We'll do some of the team totals in terms of points, as well as kind of where the Wild stack up in the Western Conference, as well as the Central Division. So a lot to go over here. And I want to mention that we're taking these over-unders at least for team performance from betonline.ag, our friends over at betonline.ag. So make sure to check them out. Great resources. And as mentioned previously throughout the week, brand new looking website. So a great resource over at betonline.ag for us to take a look at. Okay, we're going to start, and we'll go conference, division, Stanley Cup, and then we'll go through some other team point totals as well before we jump into some of the individual awards. Wyatt, are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's start with the odds to win the 2022 Western Conference. Now, I'm not a huge betting person myself, but I know the gist of what's going on. So we look at the odds for the Western Conference. The Colorado Avalanche coming in at plus 225 to win the Western Conference. Then the Vegas Golden Knights are next at plus 325. Then a four-way tie, check that, with the Dallas Stars, the Edmonton Oilers, the Minnesota Wild, and the St. Louis Blues at plus 1,400. Now, obviously, that means there's quite a bit of a gap between the Colorado Avalanche and the Vegas Golden Knights. So Wyatt, plus 225 and plus 325 for Colorado and Vegas. Do you like the Wild at plus 1,400? Do you think there's that much of a gap between those two teams and the Wild?
I mean, the Avalanche are like up to the top. They're the cream of the crop in the West. And then the Knights, they're all probably number 2 the whole season. They're probably going to be chasing the Avalanche. So I think after those two, it's a toss-up. It's between the Wild. The West is just always such an interesting conference because it seems like teams, they don't get good, but it's cyclical. Like,
Yep.
there's like the odd year and even year teams almost. Like it's really hard to predict the West, but and I don't know how many teams because of last year they had the whole dips, but the Central Division always ends up sending a bunch one year, and then the next year will be the Pacific. So it's gonna be interesting to see, but you got to think the Wild will be in there for between probably 2 and 5 in that section there, but
I think you're right on. The one thing that I find interesting is that the Seattle Kraken, who literally just put their roster together and haven't even seen it really play out with the exception of the preseason, they are plus 1,600. So just slightly worse odds than the Wild, which I think is maybe a little bit of a disservice to the Wild, but at the same time,
that's way overselling the Kraken.
I agree.
I mean, obviously, we have yet to see them play, but they're going to be bad. They're going to be bad.
We'll see if Ron Francis put together a winner or if he put together a what happens kind of a roster. But I think the more telling one will be getting into these division futures. Best odds to win the Central Division. Colorado Avalanche at plus 200. They are the far and away favorite again to win the Central, and rightfully so. Interesting, though, the Minnesota Wild are plus 700. The Dallas Stars are plus 800. St. Louis is plus 1,200. Winnipeg plus 1,400. The Chicago Blackhawks plus 2,000 right now to win the Central. And the Nashville Predators plus 4,000. And then there is a wide gulf. The Arizona Coyotes are plus 15,000 to win.
The perennial rebuilders.
Yeah, I think those odds for Arizona are real nice. And again, these odds all from betonline.ag. But Wyatt, with those, Colorado, Minnesota, Dallas, St. Louis, Winnipeg, Chicago, Nashville, Arizona. Do you like that projected finish for the Central Division? Do you think the Wilds can get as high as second?
They very well could. Again, this division is just so there. I mean, you need the Stars were in the Cup Finals. What was it, year ago? Yep. However you want to say that. But the Predators, they're always a tough team. They've got really good players. The Blackhawks, I mean, they still got Kane, you still got Taves, and now you got Doc, who's going to come back healthy. It's a tough division, man. Every game is so important in the Central, and even Arizona is not that they have good pieces to put things together, but it's just it's gonna be a grind. It's the Wild need to grind out those division wins if they want to get a high seed in the playoffs.
Yeah, I fully agree. Tell you what, let's hold off the Stanley Cup odds as well as the point totals for the Wild. We'll hold off on those, but we'll continue that next segment. Wyatt Garan joining today's episode of Locked on Wild. More coming up next. Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows, you're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all of that entertainment you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. The best part? There is no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. This fall, Built Bar wants to help you celebrate freedom of choice. Built Bar has amazing tasting flavors, including coconut, cherry barcia, raspberry mint brownie, double chocolate, salted caramel, strawberry orange, cookies and cream, and German chocolate. Sorry, fall fans. Excuse me. Sorry, fall fans. No pumpkin spice. I think I was just choking on some pumpkin spice.
Hey, it happens.
Right during the middle of the ad, which is great. But no pumpkin spice, but still great tasting flavors. And for my money, got to go with raspberry. I think that is probably far and away the best tasting flavor. If you're not sure which one to go with first, just get the mixed box. You'll get 2 each of those 9 flavors. Not only are Built Bars amazing tasting, they are also amazingly healthy. Each Built Bar contains 17 to 18 grams of protein, ranges in calories from 130 to 180, contains only 4 to 5 grams of sugar, and only 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. Amazing tasting, amazingly healthy. What's not to like about Built Bar? So right now, head to built.com and enter the promo code BUILT15, and you'll get 15% off of your first order. Again, use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Continuing today's episode of Locked On Wild. Again, thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen of the day. Seth Topol joined by friend of the show, Wyatt Garin. We're talking overs and unders as well as odds for the Minnesota Wild for the 2021-2022 season. Wyatt, we left the big one on the map, the Stanley Cup odds for 2022. I'll run down the top 5, and then I will go to where the Minnesota Wild fit in after that. Colorado Avalanche, the favorites at plus 475. Tampa Bay Lightning plus 600. Vegas Golden Knights are plus 800. The Boston Bruins are plus 1,400, as are the Toronto Maple Leafs. And the New York Islanders at plus 1,600. Those are your top 5 for the 2022 Stanley Cup. The Minnesota Wild check in at plus 2,500, tied with the Carolina Hurricanes and the Edmonton Oilers. So a little bit of an underdog, to say the least, for the Wilds for the Stanley Cup odds. But at the same time, still plenty of teams below them, which goes all the way down to the Arizona Coyotes, Anaheim Ducks, Buffalo Sabres, Columbus Blue Jackets, and Detroit Red Wings, all tied at plus 20,000. That is your low level for Stanley Cup odds. Wyatt, do you like the Wilds being at that plus 2,500 number? Again, up near the upper half in terms of Stanley Cup odds. I think that's a pretty good number for the Wild here for this year.
I'd agree with that. It's a reasonable place for them to be in the rankings, but that list is just kind of surprising altogether to me. Like, I'm surprised the Avalanche are above the Lightning, first of all.
Yeah, me too. Like, it seems like Tampa
Bay's the Avs are good. The Avs are really good. The Lightning are different.
Yes. The Avalanche are the team right now that people take less money to go play for to try to win another cup. And
right.
Colorado's just not quite at that level. I mean, they're a very good team, but they're not at the, like, I'm taking a minimum salary to come play for the – I'm not going to take a minimum salary to come play for the Avalanche. I'm taking one to go play for the Lightning, though, because I think they're going to win that third cup.
Did Pat Maroon sign anywhere yet? Did he resign?
It's a great question. I think so.
He's been in the Cup final the last 3 years. He's won the Cup the last 3 years, right?
Yes.
St. Louis, Tampa.
Yeah, and I think he's back with the Lightning.
There you go. Tampa.
He's on the
22 Cup finals
page.
I
mean, why not? He's the LeGarrette Blount of the NHL.
That's a good way to put it. He's
every season.
That guy's got it figured out. That guy's got it figured out.
I really like. We're gonna go next to the point totals for the Wild. Now, this one's gonna be a little hard because, I mean, it's hard at this point to project where point totals are going to end up. You know, you get 2 points for a win, 1 point if you get the game to overtime, and then another point if you get the game into overtime and win. The Minnesota Wild at Their over-under right now is set at 97.5. And that is second in the Central Division. So obviously people buying a lot of Wild stock, as the Wild, I think, they're expected to be 2 points ahead of Dallas, who I think is at 95. Wild's
that's the over-under?
Yeah, 97.5
Hey.
points for the Wilds. Colorado, I think, is at 110. So, I mean, 97.5.
High.
Yeah,
that's just a lot of points. Like, I'm not like saying they can't do it. That's just a lot of points to try to project an over-under. Like,
yeah, because
I hope they get over, but I would honestly maybe put the under on that. That's 95 plus points is a good season. You're talking 97.5, 98 points. That's a good season. I mean,
I'd probably lean towards the under as well, because like let's take these into consideration. Playing the Central Division, playing the entire NHL schedule.
Yep.
So not only playing like the toughest opponents in the NHL, and the Olympic break going to be factored in as well. So,
I can't wait for that. I cannot wait for that. I'm so excited.
That's going to be just an absolute blast. But like,
that's going to be so much fun.
I think I'm going to take the under 97.5. Not to say that the Wild
also, you got to factor in like injuries and all that stuff too. Yep. Like, I think 97.5. That's like that would be if everything goes right, I would say.
I agree. That's best case scenario for the Wild.
Yeah, for sure. Which is why if I was to gamble on it, I'd take the under.
Yeah, I agree. So that's a look at some of the odds and the point total numbers for the Wild. Again, these numbers all coming from betonline.ag. We are going to take a quick pause, but when we come back, we'll go over unders for the Wild players, some of their stats, goals, wins, assists, penalty minutes, all of that. We'll go through some of the top Wild players, see where we think they will finish. More to come on today's episode of Locked On Wilds after this. And speaking of betonline.ag, they are back and better than ever. All eyes are on the gridiron as teams are back to start another football season. And as always, betonline.ag is your number one spot for all of the pro and college football action this season. With a new updated site and interface, and I can vouch for this because we're literally just looking at it, even more odds, props, and contests, betonline.ag continues to be the number one source for everything football. So head to betonline.ag on your laptop or mobile device to sign up today to receive your 100% welcome bonus. That's double your initial deposit just for signing up. Don't forget to use the promo code NFL100. From football, basketball, and boxing right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. That's betonline.ag, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. betonline.ag, your online sportsbook experts. Final segment of today's episode of Locked On Wild. Again, thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen of the day. Seth Topol joined by friend of the show, Wyatt Garin. And Wyatt, I am moving over to fantasy hockey projections now, so we can get a little bit of an idea of what the fantasy realm expects the Wild players to do for numbers this season. And so we're going to start with a couple of players that are expected to have absolutely sensational seasons. Let's start with Kirill Kaprizov, who is he's projected to have 38 goals, 36 assists. So 74 points expected for Kirill Kaprizov over the course of this season. Let's just go with the goals. 38. Do you think he'll be over 38 or under 38 this season?
I think you gotta say over on that. I mean, he scored almost that last year. Close.
Yeah.
I don't remember
27 in 55 games, and the math
So 9 more goals in a full 82 game season. It's doable. One thing I kept seeing was he's got to play the whole NHL this year, right? So he's got all the teams, and someone's like, oh, the teams have the book on him now, like how Vegas kind of shut him down in the playoffs. And I was like, he's still good. Especially if he's playing with more minutes with like Fiala, hopefully Rossi, Boldy.
Yeah, well,
he'll get 40 goals. I think I'm getting 40 goals.
And here's the other thing too. Yes, there are a lot of teams in like the Pacific Division, the West, that have the book on him. There are a lot of teams that haven't seen him yet. And so they're going to try things to stop him. It's not going to work. Like I just want to just some friendly advice for all of the teams in the NHL playing Kirill Kaprizov for the first time this year. Whatever you're planning to try on defense is not going to work. So try it, but you're going to be frustrated. So best of luck to you.
It's hard to say because I just feel like there's no way he's going to like shock us more than he did last year. Like but then again, it's like, we don't know. Like, I'm excited. Yeah. He's in line for a big season.
And if he has Joel Eriksson Ek as his center,
I'm excited to see that as well. That's clamoring for that last year so much. I was like, he needs someone other than Victor Rask.
I'm here to tell you right now, he's not going to double his goal total. He's going to get close. I am predicting 47 for Kaprizov this year.
You're getting into Danny Heatley territory.
I'm telling you, 50 burger is not far away. And
if he hits a 50 burger,
another bold take is that he will hit a 50 burger during this extension.
I agree with that. I would agree with that.
Yeah. So we're both on record with the over for Kaprizov. Let's move next to Kevin Fiala. And Fiala currently projected, at least according to Yahoo Fantasy, for 29 goals and 36 assists. So again, we'll go goals for Fiala. 29. He had 20 in 50 games this past season. Over under 29 goals for Kevin Fiala.
This is an interesting one to me. I almost don't want him to get that because he signed a 1-year extension. Like,
glad you brought that up.
Because he's here. Like, I don't want to tank, obviously, but like, let's just do what you did last year, get you signed on long term, and then go have a 40-goal season. Like, but realistically, 29 goals is probably pretty achievable for Kevin Fiala.
I would agree. I think he's going to get there pretty easy. I will say
he's a streaky player, so like
he is.
He'll go 3 games without seeing the score sheet, and then 5 games where he scores every game. Like,
yeah,
that's just kind of how he plays.
I think he ultimately gets there. I'm going to put him at like 32 goals. Just a nice even number. Yeah. I have no reason for picking that. It's just I feel like that's the way to go. I have 2 more that I want to get to on offense before we talk about Cam Talbot to wrap things up for today. Joel Eriksson Ek had a 20-goal season for the Wild this past year. He is projected for 23 goals this season for the Wild. So let's just set it at that number, over or under 23 goals for Joel Eriksson Ek.
Over.
You're buying the stock. I like that.
Go take out as much money as you can and put that on that over. You kidding? Especially if he plays as Kaprizov center. Ooh.
30. Now we're talking. Now we're getting closer, I think.
I'll put him at 28. I would say 28.
Okay. I really like that number. Like that number. That's a good one. And then finally, I'm pulling one kind of off the board here. Nico Sturm, who is projected for 13 goals. He had 11 last year in 50 games. So 13 goals for Nico Sturm, over or under.
This is another interesting one because this all depends on his role this year. Like, if he's playing the same role as he did last year, that's probably about what he'll hit, is 13. But if he gets that expanded role that the Wild probably want him to take, like the next step, he could definitely he could be in line for 15, 17 within that realm. I can see.
I am hammering the over because one of my bold predictions for this season is that he scores 20.
Wow, that's a hot take. That's a hot take.
I like what he did last year, and I feel
Nico Sturm. Nico Sturm is a hell of a hockey player. I'm so glad the Wild found him. He's really good.
His stock is rapidly rising. The other one, actually, there's one more I want to talk about. Okay. Oh, wow. Yahoo might have messed up. Okay. So, Matt Boldy, Marco Rossi. The total number of goals that is projected for the two of them based off of Yahoo Fantasy this year, 5.
Like 5 combined?
They have 5 for Boldy and 0 for Rossi. So that's got to be an easy over, right?
I think, like, Rossi's if he plays, he'll score more than 5 goals himself, but
for sure.
But there's the whole, he had the bad case of COVID, and I mean, like, he's obviously in camp now and all that, but we just don't know where he's at. Like, is he going to play full time with Minnesota this year? Is he going to be going to Iowa and Minnesota? Is he going to be full time in Iowa? Like, it's just hard to say. But in my opinion, Boldy's going to make the team, and Boldy will have 10 goals this year.
I agree. I like that. And, it'll depend on how the rest of the preseason goes. But from what Dean Evison has said, they both have looked great. So take that for what it is. And I guess we'll see. Final one that I wanted to get to here today, Cam Talbot, who is projected, according to Yahoo Fantasy, for 30 wins this season. Over or under 30 wins for Cam Talbot?
I'm going to say, but not because he has a bunch of losses, but because he's splitting more time this season.
Yeah.
I think they're really trying Kahkonen to be the guy, because I love Talbot a lot. He's a solid goalie. He's a stopgap. He's not a guy you're on your team for another 5 years. And they got Kahkonen, they got Hunter Jones, who I was a fan of when they drafted him, and the guy they just drafted was Wallstedt. I was a big fan of him coming out of the draft. I thought he was the best goalie coming out this season.
For sure. I like the grooming Kahkonen take, because I feel like the Wild will be at the top level of the buyouts for Parise and Suter when Talbot's deal is done.
And Kahkonen will be cheaper. Even if the playing level between the two is a little bit more in favor of Talbot, Kahkonen's not cheaper.
Yeah, and I mean, if they can accelerate his readiness, then that means you could theoretically bring Wallstedt up as soon as he is ready to be the backup, and then take over once he's ready to rock. So
I've been a big fan of Kahkonen ever since he was drafted. I remember back in the day, I played the old NHL games on the PS4 360, and he would always be the goalie prospect you draft in the 4th round, because you're he's got starter potential.
Yeah, I could envision a 50-30 split for Talbot and Kahkonen this year. Something along those lines, just to try to keep everybody fresh. And
it'll be interesting, because Evison has shown he just likes to ride the hot hand. So
yeah,
if Talbot comes out and he wins 10 straight games, it's his net to lose then. It's not a bad situation to be in, but it's a little bit muddled.
For sure. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And that, I think, is where we'll leave things with the overs and unders. So, Wyatt, thank you for joining the show today. And Locked On Wild fans, we got a project that's going to involve Wyatt throughout the course of the season. We've got more information coming up on that, so stay tuned. As well as following Wyatt on Twitter at WGaran9. You can see, for those of you watching on YouTube, you can see his Twitter information right below his screen on the right there, as well as my Twitter handle below my picture as well. Thank you once again for making Locked On Wild your first listen of the day. For your second listen, make sure to hop over to the Locked On NHL podcast for more news and notes from training camp as we push further and further towards the start of the NHL season. Make sure to also follow Locked On Wild wherever you listen to podcasts, on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Also, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure to keep an eye out for special video content all throughout the week as well. We have new episodes coming your way every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.